Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Monday, May 5th, and I got a question here about the Steelers 2025 draft class, and we're going to get to see a little bit more of them this week. Steelers rookie minicamp coming up on Friday. Excited for that at the South Side. Going to have a couple of friends along with me. Brandon Howell from SteelersNow.com will be joining me, as well as the venerable Ed Thompson, Steelers Now photographer, for that weekend. Right now, we've got a question, though, about the Steelers' fifth-round pick, Yahya Black from Debitty Slayer. Debitty Slayer says, hey, Alan, I love the draft. My question is, why did they draft that DT out of Iowa? They had Fehoko on the roster for 2 years, and he didn't play. Was he just subpar? Seems weird, especially how we were getting destroyed by the run. Sort of a two-part question here, right? One was, why didn't they ever play Breiden Fehoko? And the answer to that question is basically they don't play enough nose tackle to warrant a guy on the roster who doesn't, a second guy on the roster who is a primary nose tackle. So for the last 4 years, the Steelers had Montravius Adams, who played mostly nose tackle, could also play three tech. They had Keanu Benton for the last 2 seasons, who played nose tackle in the base, three tech, and sub package. So they had their 2 nose tackles. Nose tackle is so unimportant to the Steelers scheme that as long as you have 2 guys that can play it in the lineup, that's good enough. You don't need a third. And Breiden Fehoko would not be better than either Keanu Benton or Montravius Adams at playing nose tackle, even though that's all he does. He would have been better than, like, there was a couple times where they had somebody injured or they had to play a man short because they were stretching another position. Like, I saw Isaiah Loudermilk play some nose tackle. Like, Cam Hayward's played some nose tackle over the years. Yeah, he'd be better than that. But he would not be better than Adams or Benton. So he was the third nose tackle, so he never played. That's pretty simple. Why did they get Yahya Black? Well, they wanted to upgrade the position. And Adams is getting older. It had been here for a while. And they felt like Black was a better investment for the future. So they drafted Black. They cut Adams. And now he's the number 2 nose tackle. Black can play more than just nose tackle. He played 3 technique at Iowa his entire career. They don't play a 3-4. They play a 4-3. So he's been playing 3 tech. He can do it. We'll see if he's able to do it at the NFL level. I'm not sure he has the athleticism to feel comfortable with that right now. But, he's still sort of growing into that frame. He talked about being a string bean when he got to Iowa. Some guys that are just big, that just win on just being big, do so because there's this like perverse, like, if you're bigger than everybody else, you don't need to learn technique, right? And so then you just are bigger than everyone else, all the way from Pop Warner to college football, and then when you finally get to the NFL, then you struggle because you don't have the technique that you need. I think with Yahya Black, yeah, he's really big, but he's also still learning the position in many ways. And I think that he has a lot of traits that I like that I think can be improved upon. So they got a nose tackle for now. They also got a player that I think has some pass rush upside that maybe they can mold into a more well-rounded defensive lineman than just a nose tackle, which is what they really want because they don't play very much nose tackle. They aren't going to play very much nose tackle as Cleveland goes away from their 2 tight end heavy offense. They'll probably play less and less nose tackle. It's basically only for the Baltimore Ravens at this point. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to see Yahya Black play a ton this year, but you didn't see Montravius Adams play a ton last year either, unless somebody gets hurt. I do think down the road, the idea of the Yahya Black pick is to have him get good enough at being a nose tackle that when Cam Hayward hangs up those cleats, you can use Black as the starting nose tackle in the 3-4, move Benton to end, and then have Benton, Black, Harmon, and then Benton and Harmon would obviously be the starters and a 3 tech sub package, and you would need to add a 3 tech to that mix. So I think that's maybe the big picture idea is you get a guy right now who is a younger, cheaper version of your backup nose tackle who maybe could become more than that. We'll see going forward, whether that's just being able to be a starting nose tackle or if he can develop into a 3 tech as well. Look, I think you look at players like Larry Ogunjobi and Montravius Adams. These are guys who are not big pieces of the puzzle going forward. And so I think the Steelers looked at their defensive line and said, we don't have enough future pieces. Well, it's hard to develop future pieces when you're carrying bit part players around with you. And so I think that's why they decided to move on from Larry O and Mont Adams and bring in Harmon and bring in Black. It's all really part of just a desire to significantly renovate their entire team, but starting from the trenches out. Would not surprise me if they go back to defensive line again in next year's draft. It wouldn't surprise me one bit, although they do have a very competitive situation on the defensive line right now. I just put together a depth chart at SteelersNow.com, so you can go check that out. But spoiler alert, you get down that defensive line, and I've got Derek Harmon battling Daniel Wekawale for a first-team job. The loser of that probably battling Dean Lowry for a second-team job. Isaiah Loudermilk and DeMarvin Leal battling for another second-team job. And Logan Lee in that mix as well, maybe looking on the outside of a roster spot right now. In fact, more than one of those guys may be looking at the outside of a roster spot. Asezio Tomowo, who came in as a free agent, I believe he was on the Jaguars practice squad. You can throw him in that mix as well. Dominique Davis will be that third nose tackle and probably head to the practice squad. But yeah, I mean, that's a very competitive defensive line group, and I think they want to continue to build it that way. I loved the quote from defensive line coach Carl Dunbar in his post-draft press conference. Like, if you want to eat, go get your food. Like it's competition. It's what it is. And they're going to have pretty good competition this offseason in that defensive line room. All right, that's all I got for today. Another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive on tap with me and Smitty, and maybe with a special guest. We'll see. We haven't done Monday guests, but we'll see if we can get one together. Until then, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode, and enjoy.